Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James. This is about our 10th time of trying to record because Lee can't sort his mic out. It's our second COTC as we look ahead to Blank Gameweek 28. And very importantly for both of our correspondents today, Double Game Week 29. Let me introduce you to our Aston Villa correspondent, Lee Jackson. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, wonderful, amazing, seamless as ever on Planet FPL.
Yeah, me and Neil both had trepidation that we weren't going to hear you then. And let me introduce you to our Bournemouth correspondent, Neil Grover. How are you, Neil?
Hello. Yes, really well. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Good stuff. Lee, we're a few months into Unai Emery's reign now. I'm going to guess we're quite happy.
We are quite happy. We're very happy. I think it's fifth in the table since he started. If you just started the season then. We've had some tough games. We've had some big wins. He's broken a few hoodoos as well along the way. Hadn't beaten Man United at home since the 90s. Hadn't won in our third kit, weirdly, for like 5 years. And had lost 5 on the spin against West Ham, and we managed to get a point at the weekend. So, yeah, he's certainly happy with the appointment.
None of those hoodoos included beating Tottenham, no? That's...
No, because we beat you at the end of the lockdown season, didn't we?
That doesn't count. That's like behind closed doors football. It's like not really an actual thing, mate.
Yeah, you would say that.
No, but in all seriousness, what's the expectations here? Because I've had a few Villa fans push back at me recently and go, no, we're trying for Europe here.
I think that's obviously the aim, but I think if you honestly spoke to any Villa fan and said, look, would you take 10th? Would you take 9th right now this season? I think we'd probably say yeah. So we've still got a bit of catching up to do on your Brentfords and your Fulhams. Chelsea look like they're going to sort themselves out now and probably pull away from us. But yeah, absolutely, Europe is the aim next season, if not this.
It could dip as low as 7th to get in.
Yeah.
It's not unreachable, is it?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, you look at some of the results that we've had since Emery came in, winning at Brighton, like I say, beating Man United at home. We've proven, I mean, nearly beating Arsenal, but for a collapse at the end of the game. We've proven that any team we play will give them the game. We're not going to roll over, a la the Aston Villa of Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, that brings the Arsenal connection nicely onto Neil, throwing it away late on at the end.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it either, to be totally honest, mate. Talk to me about Gary O'Neill, because I know going back a couple of months, you were probably of the opinion change. Where are you at with him at the moment?
I think he'll get to the end of the season and we'll reassess now. I don't see a situation where we get rid now. I think if they were going to do it, they would have done it with about a week left of the transfer window, when just before we then went and spent all of our money, basically, which I think it felt at the time that there was a decision made somewhere to either change or back, and they chose back, which is fine. I've got no problem with a board that says, actually, this is our guy for whatever reason, and we're going to back him. And that's what they did in January. Spent best part of 80 million all in when you include some of the loan stuff that's been obligated, and so I think that they'll at least give him to the end of the season. I think depending on what the outcome is will then depend how we then reassess. I think I'd still like to see a little bit more of a progressive appointment come sort of June, particularly if we're still in the Premier League and we want to look at perhaps not being in a relegation battle next year.
Yeah, I was going to say you kind of ended that nicely, because I get a sense from you would probably still rather have someone else, like that sense.
Yeah, and that's nothing against O'Neill. I think actually he's a very good coach. I just feel like he was kind of thrown a little bit in at the deep end. It took him a little while to get going, and I still feel that occasionally, particularly in the Premier League, his lack of experience gets exposed. And I think that's what we've maybe seen with a few of these 3-2 losses, where we've, for example, in the Arsenal game, I think we sat back too early. And I sort of thought, as soon as we conceded the first goal, I was like, this is about 10 minutes too early.
You know what's coming.
So I think that's what he does. I think he's fine up until about the hour mark, where you've got your pre-set out team and your plan. But it's when a better, or I should say more experienced manager at that sort of hour mark, that's when they look at it perhaps and go, right, well, I need to tweak this, and this, and I'm going to bring on these players and we're going to change shape. And it's when that happens, I don't think he's quite got the ability yet to make those changes on the fly. He tries, but I don't think it still, again, feels quite scripted. I'll bring on, if we're winning, I'll do this. And if we're losing, I'll do that, rather than perhaps making those micro adjustments that you want to see from a manager.
You get frustrated hearing everybody's predictions of who will go down.
No, yes. Like initially, it was like when we came on, it was very much everyone thought we were going to be 20th, right? And but to be honest, the more I look back on it, I mean that's Bournemouth's sweet spot. We've always been underdogs. We've always been the team that people write off, even historically, right, back in like League 1 and 2. So that's kind of our little niche, is the underdogs that no one gives a chance to. So I think that's where we live, right?
And I take it winning 2-0 is more dangerous than winning 1-0, is it?
Yeah, dangerous lead in sports.
Why is it? It's 3 times now this season, isn't it? You've lost from being 2 goals ahead.
Yeah, I even said, I said to my mates when we were pushing for the second, I was like, don't score a second against Liverpool. That's the death knell right there. We'll just keep it at 1-0. We can do 1-0. But apparently 2-0, we can't do it. I think, again, it comes back to Gary O'Neill. I think what he does, if it's 1-0, he keeps trying to push for that second. And I think we saw that against Liverpool. It felt like we, up until maybe the last 5 or 6 minutes, we really kept pushing and trying to get over the top and trying to get that next goal. Whereas against like Arsenal, we went 2-0 up and we just tried to park the bus and didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, we look at your last 5, though. Tough run of fixtures. Newcastle City, Liverpool at home, Wolves away and Arsenal away. It's 7 points from those 5 games. And the one before that was Brighton away. And you lost in the last minute, right?
Yeah.
So is everybody on the outside massively underestimating you? Because that looks like a decent set of results, actually.
I think for me, it was getting to this point. So the Liverpool game, and it was going to be where I wanted to be was look at the table and not be adrift. I think that was the key thing, particularly when you look at what we've got coming next. And actually, considering how teams around us have picked up points recently, the fact that we've maintained that pace and kept pace with them over that run of fixtures, I think we've positioned ourselves really well.
Right, Lee, lots of people looking at Villa assets this week for FPL. Ollie Watkins seems like a good place to start. Would you buy him for Haaland this week if you still own the big Norwegian?
I do still own Haaland, and there's a very, very real possibility I'll buy Watkins for Haaland this week.
So you don't have him as yet?
Nope.
Plan? Doing it?
Yeah, I think so. So I've already made 1 transfer. I've gone early, exactly like you did, actually. I went early on Chilwell before he went up in price, because I just thought attacking fullback for Chelsea, plays in 28, double in 29. Yeah, I want it. And I've got another free transfer for later in the week in case anything did go wrong. And yeah, looking at the next 2 game weeks, blank, then Liverpool home, with Watkins having Bournemouth at home and then, Chelsea away, Leicester away. Yeah, I fancy it. My only worry is I know I'm going to want Haaland back in 30. Do I really want to do the hokey cokey and waste 2 transfers effectively doing that switch? And that might push me towards keeping Haaland and just rolling with 10 this week.
You've got Forest at home in 30 as well.
Yeah.
And they are abject away from home, mate.
Yeah, true. But we're better away from home.
It's for you yourselves, it's not even just about 28 and 29, is it? It's 30 as well. You say you're better away from home. I think that's possibly influenced by the 2-4-2s against Arsenal and Leicester. Emery was very keen to say, I want some clean sheets here. And the Crystal Palace game told me that. Now, it might be a little bit of a negative on the offensive side of things, possibly. But I think a lot of people are looking at players for obviously 28, 29. Be moving Watkins back to Haaland in 30, personally. Moving someone else, I think.
Tony to Haaland, if you can do
Possibly.
that. Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, Watkins is a great option. I mean, he's shown over the last couple of years that it's not just goals with him. He will get assists here and there as well. And certainly since Emery's come in, it's been clear that he will start every game for us. Touch wood.
Is there any doubt on that with John Duran?
No, not yet anyway. Could see potentially them playing as a 2, but we know that Emery likes a 4-4-2, and whether it's Bailey, Buendia or Duran alongside him, we haven't seen any indication that Watkins won't be in that starting 11. And as you and I both know, his work off the ball is something that managers love, even if he isn't scoring goals every week. The fact that he's scoring goals every week at the moment as well just makes me even more confident that he will start every week.
Ollie Watkins of interest to you, Neil? Awkward
yes.
timing, I get.
yeah. I mean, at the moment, the Villa asset I have is Mings. He is of interest, but I feel like I'm quite well set up at the moment with Haaland on the bench. So this week I brought in Billing for that sort of coverage over the next few games. But yeah, he's on my radar for sure. Just
how much is Billing?
5.1.
Oh, okay, it's a good price, I guess.
We've gone then, Neil. Since we mentioned it, Billing versus Outtara. You've obviously made your decision.
Yes.
Explain why Billing.
For me, it comes down to the hot hand principle. So I've backed the guy that's currently on a little run of goal scoring form out of the two. That's what it comes down to for me at the moment. I think should that dip, I really like Outtara, particularly at home for some reason. At home, he seems to get an assist basically every game. And I think he will continue to do so. He is absolutely rapid and just totally exposed Van Dijk's lack of pace on Saturday. So I think that Billing at the moment, he's playing a little bit further forward, just off Solanke, which is why he was kind of Johnny on the spot 7 yards out when Outtara came in. But I think both, to be honest, are fantastic options if you don't want Billing for some reason. Outtara definitely is worth a shot.
I realise this is slanted a little bit by minutes, but Billing has more FPL points than very popular Alexis McAllister and Karim Mitoma. Solid as consistent, isn't he?
Back-to-back 10-point hauls.
Was he on 6 goals this season, I think?
Something like that.
Yeah, 6 goals and assists, just looking now, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the problem, I think, for him, though, is like, do you want to get... I've got McAllister and Mitoma, and I want them both for 29. That's the issue. I don't really want to move it.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I exactly did Mitoma to Billing for next week. So obviously I'm riding Mitoma this week. My plan then is to move back to Mitoma, and I'll look at exactly how I do that depending on how things shake out of the international break.
So would Billing be a long-term hold for you now then?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm currently sat on 2 Bournemouth assets, Billing being the main one that I intend to play. I just think our fixtures and our impetus for the rest of the season as well, which I don't think is a factor sometimes people forget, or is that they forget. Bournemouth need to play every single game this season. There isn't going to be an element of flip-flops later in the season. We're going to have to try and win every game. And again, I know it's the FPL FDR. We've only got one FDR of 4 or above in that between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, at the same time, I think there are challenges in the fixtures. You've got obviously Villa. Yep. We're kind of splitting the league at the moment, aren't we? A top 11 and a bottom 9, basically, of which Villa are obviously 11th at the moment, but well clear of. There's about 7-point difference, I think, isn't it? Lead to the 8 to Palace, to the bottom 9. You got Villa away, Fulham and Brighton obviously both pushing for Europe at the moment. Leicester away, obviously around you. Then Tottenham away. Then there's a nice 3 fixtures. Then you've got Chelsea, Palace, United, Everton to finish. Chelsea and United both being at home as well. Admittedly, they might have nothing to play for. So that running from 32 might look quite nice as an overview. The next 5 still looks quite challenging for me. Or do you look at Fulham and Brighton as a double in 29 and go 2 home games? Right, fancy that.
Yeah, I think our home form at the moment. Now, again, people will look at it and go, "Well, you've just come off you just lost to City," but before that, we drew to Forest and Newcastle. If you take the City game out, you have to go quite a way back to a game week 18. When
Palace.
we last lost, Palace was when we last lost.
Which is Palace's last win, ironically.
Probably. That sounds about right. So, our home form has not been bad. And I think even the City game, we looked okay, considering it was City. I think the other thing, and you've touched upon it there with our fixtures, we're the only one of the bottom 9, I believe, that bottom group that's played City, Arsenal, and Liverpool twice. So we've not got those games. And even Chelsea, I mean, historically, we joke, we always do well against them for some bizarre reason. Yeah. So I think I can be cautiously optimistic when I look at our fixtures.
Your finish doesn't look great, Lee. Just looking from a similar period, starting with sort of Newcastle 31, Newcastle, Brentford, Fulham, Man United, Wolves, Tottenham, Liverpool, Brighton. So it's only from that Wolves away, be the only one of a team that's below you in the league currently at the moment. So you've not got many of those bottom 9. You've only got one.
No, you can look at it in one of two ways. Either we've got the harder teams to play, or it's an opportunity for Villa, because, I mean, it's 6 pointers, isn't it? If we can beat a Brentford, beat a Fulham, beat a Brighton, then we're catching points up on them, aren't we? So it's a real opportunity where Villa's season can go one of two ways, I think, because of those fixtures. But from an FPL point of view, I think now is the time if you want Watkins. And then once it gets round to, like you say, 31, 32, that's probably when you're coming off, depending on doubles and stuff, obviously.
Yeah, I think the only people would be looking at Villa assets sort of beyond this week, it's got to be now, really, with the 3 game weeks you've got. Bournemouth and Forest at home with a double in the middle. It's got to be now, except for maybe those who are free hitting now, perhaps haven't been on, want to come back in 29. That'd be perfectly understandable. Most want to go in now. I think from that perspective, Lee, yourselves, Chelsea and Newcastle feel like main targets this week. And Chelsea's little run that they've just had over the last week or so means that I think many who are investing might just completely overlook Villa. It's part why I wanted to get Watkins in a couple of weeks ago, so it was sitting in there ready. And obviously his form was very good, as it still is at the time in any case as well. If you were free hitting this week, Lee, how many Villa do you think you'd go?
I think because of the value, you'd find yourself probably going 3, and you'd maybe put a Mings on the bench if he's not in your 11, or a Conser on the bench if he's not in your 11. But in terms of starting 11, Watkins, if I was on free hit, Watkins would be an absolute lock. I don't think I'd go any other attacking players, though. It's too much of a roulette for who's going to be on the pitch, who's going to get pulled at 60 minutes, and who's going to actually end up getting returns out of your Baileys, Buendias, McGinns. It just feels too messy, too much of a lottery, I think. Watkins is the talisman from an attacking point of view, and we're all right defensively. And at 4.3, your Mings and Consers are fine.
Neil's got Mings. Is there any concern from that perspective with Carlos's return? Was obviously on the bench at West Ham at the weekend.
Yeah, a little. I don't think any of us are quite sure where Carlos is going to fit in. We're certainly expecting him to fit in somewhere. It could be that he comes in and Mings comes out. We know Carlos does like to play left-sided centre-back, which is where Mings plays. But I think it's more likely that he comes in for Conser.
He can play both.
Yeah.
He can definitely play right-sided centre-back as well.
The other option, though, that I think is an outside shout is Matty Cash hasn't looked great in recent weeks. He lost his place to Ashley Young for a while as well. There's a chance that Emery could push Conser to right back and put Carlos in, I think. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's beyond the realms. I think there's a chance.
I mean, the lead up to this question was basically right. So there's a little bit of doubt on Mings. So Matty Cash is the one, isn't it? You've just fucking blown that one out, mate.
Yeah, I feel more confident in Mings than I do in Cash, actually, because you've got Young or that outside shout of Conser going to right back. Cash was dreadful against West Ham. He had a really poor, yeah, he didn't have a good game. And I'm a big fan of Matty Cash. But yeah, it wasn't a good afternoon for him at all. He gave the ball away a few times, and it was playing down the left for West Ham, caused him no end of problems.
You know what? Everybody listening to that just went, oh, I wonder if Wesley Fofana is going to be fit for the weekend, because you've just massively put everybody off every Villa defensive asset. Unless you're going to tell me that Moreno is nailed over Dean.
I couldn't say that with 100% security, because Dean started against Everton and Moreno was on the bench. I do think Moreno is first choice, but is he definitely going to play twice in the double when you need him? No, I wouldn't confidently say that. No.
No, agreed. God, that is a real pain there. It probably makes Mings safest.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But like I say, I don't feel 100% sure that Mings is safe. If you told me next week that Carlos has come in and Mings has dropped to the bench, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be absolutely gobsmacked.
I mean, there is a chance here that nothing changes and Cash, Mings, and Concert all play this 3-game week spell and played a lot.
Yeah. Right? And he eases Carlos back in with a 10-minute cameo here or there, maybe.
Because I think it's worth saying, say with Mings particularly, because he's 4.3, if it holds for you to game week 30, beyond that, you're probably not bothered. It's actually probably not many fixtures from 31 onwards where you'd actually start him. So it wouldn't become like an instant headache. But for all of the next 3 weeks, you arguably would. You know, you factor in sort of Arsenal going to Liverpool in 30, for example, and Villa being at home to Forest. If you've got an asset that week, I think you'll want to play it. Interestingly, though, for this week, I can see 3 hit teams having something like Trippier, Chilwell, Gabriel. And doing what you said, having like a Mings or a Cash on the bench. I can see it that way because Bournemouth have shown we score goals in these games. We just scored a goal against Liverpool, City and Arsenal in consecutive weeks. When was the last time we didn't score, Neil?
Oh, that's a question.
Brighton, isn't it?
Cheating. He's cheating. He's looking
Brighton,
at the
game
screen.
week 22.
Brighton. Yeah, I'm looking it up. Brighton in 22, and I think I feel like we probably could have then as well. So yeah,
there's Semenyo chance, certainly. I think 3 hitters might look past Villa defensively this week. Emi Buendia is a name I keep mentioning. Lee, you've poo-pooed that as well. It's not good, mate.
It's not that there's anything against Buendia. It's just that there are other players in that team that can be on the end of crosses or that can be supplying them. Buendia's had good returns this season, and at his price, he's very good value. It just feels a bit too punty for me. I don't think you want to go there over a Brighton mid. Looking at 29, obviously Brighton blank this week.
But there will be people sitting there right now who have gone, say, the 3 Brighton attacking mids plus, say, Rashford, and might even have Salah as well as a 5, right? And not 3 hit, and literally you've got nothing this week. So something there's got to be a sacrifice. There would no doubt be people who have gone, oh shit, I didn't realize this blank was coming. And thinking, right, well, the easy one is get rid of maybe 1 or 2 of them Brighton players, perhaps. Would you buy Buendia or Billin now, Lee?
Buendia.
Because?
Sorry, Neil. I just don't see enough goals in Bournemouth in general. And I wouldn't want to invest in their attack. Sorry, Neil.
Neil, I won't ask you the same question because we already know the answer, right? You've already invested in Philip Billin. How high is he playing? Is he essentially playing as a 10? Because that's certainly kind of how it looked against Liverpool at the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, he's everywhere, but that's where he's in the attacking phase. That's where he's ending up. At times he's ending up ahead of Solanke because Solanke drops back to sort of hold the ball up.
And then runs beyond.
And then, Billing runs beyond. But he's always in the box. He's also got the height as well. We don't see
and he's got a hell of a shot on him as well.
Yeah. And with Outtara coming in behind, and I must admit, if it ends up in a situation where you end up with some slower defensive options, Outtara's just going to eat them all for lunch, like he did against Liverpool. So, and not just this week, in general.
Is there any threat to Billing's place at all? And all I mean by, I think we'll probably be fairly certain it will start this week. But thinking ahead to 29, if Traore's back fit, if Tavernier's back fit, how does that change the outlook for you?
I don't think it affects Billing. I think the players that would be more likely to give way would be Anthony, who's been playing recently. I think that's where Tavernier would go. And then you've got like your Lewis Cook, who didn't play this weekend, but he's been in and around it. I think that's where Traore would sit. That's another option that is perhaps a little bit under the radar, because when he's back fit, he's been on set pieces. And has looked really quite good. He looked a little bit of a different gravy the other day, I thought.
Hi Twix, that's Neil's Grove. Neil's Grove.
That wasn't my dog.
Neil Grover's dog. Not your dog. Is that Lee's dog?
That's Lee's dog.
Bloody hell, Lee's just muted. Everyone's got a dog except me. Can people save off the jokes with that as well? Will Traore, if he comes back in for 29, would not play ahead of Billing, no?
He wouldn't. No, he would. But Billing will definitely keep a space, and what might happen is Billing perhaps isn't always the man that runs on ahead, and he might drop back a little bit. But you can't, with the current form he's in, you can't, like, you're not gonna play around with it. I don't think. Not that front few.
Okay. Are we all overlooking Dominic Solanke, mate?
I think he's a fantastic player, and there's a big difference that you can see when he is and isn't playing in how we set up. I just don't think at the moment, I think he's acting as the kind of assist as opposed to the main striking option. So I think at the moment, the midfield options are better from an FPL point of view. But it's, Solanke he could well just suddenly go on a run. So keep an eye. But I think the midfield options at the price that they're at as well is where I would land.
He's not scored more than 5 FPL points in a game since game week 11, which was he scored twice in the 2-2 draw at Fulham. There have been there's plenty of 6s and 5s when you look through. It's not like he's blanking every week. It doesn't necessarily feel like enough when you're looking for a bit of power at this stage of the season coming into doubles.
Yeah, as I said, I think that the Billing and Outtara, or the other player that I think is a sneaky option is Neto. If you want someone a bit different in goal, opposed to your Reyes and your Sanchez, Steels, all of that sort of stuff. I think he got a 10-pointer this week. The defensive system that we're playing, when we do get clean sheets, he gets a lot of shots on him as well, and which, he's had 3 bonus points twice in the last 4 game weeks.
I want to say he's got one of the best save percentages in the league, actually.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. The way we've been defending is, and we saw it a little bit against Liverpool, we've kind of put men in front and kind of made them go for low-calorie shots, and then Neto can just eat them up. And he gets his save points.
Love that, mate. Low calorie shots and eat them out. Mate, that's gold. Where did you get that one from?
But yeah, so he can just sort of hoover them up, really. Like that's what he's been doing. And against Wolves as well, he had quite a good game there, I thought, as well. So with the better fixtures, with teams that in theory are less likely to be able to break a really strong defensive unit down, I could see him getting quite a few returns.
Worth saying, 4 clean sheets with him in goal this season. We've spoken about problems with Travers in the past. It's worth saying, of those 4 clean sheets, it will surprise no Wolves fans to learn that 50% of them were against Wolves. So it's a clean sheet against Liverpool. The other one was against Brentford in a 0-0 quite early in the season. So I think, yes, if you wanted to invest in a Bournemouth defensive player, there isn't enough in the actual defenders for me to think, there's going to be a haul of attacking returns from anyone. We know, Senesar scored at Arsenal, for example. Adam Smith might chip in. Zamora, if he plays at left back, may get quite advanced. But none of them are particularly of interest, are they, Neil?
No, and I would people off Zamora at the moment. There's a contract thing. He was dropped at the weekend because he's not signed a new contract with us. So I think Neto is the option if you want Bournemouth defensive cover. And I know there's probably people laughing at Bournemouth defensive cover at the moment with our goal difference. But since probably about that Wolves game, he's brought in Jack Stevens, and we were joking, my mates and I, that actually out of nowhere, Jack Stevens is the centre back of choice at the moment. He's been probably our best centre-back. Senesi is starting to show his quality that we knew he had from Feyenoord recently, and doing keepy-ups in the Liverpool box was a bit of a chef's kiss moment for me. So I think we look a little bit more defensively assured. Lloyd Kelly's back now as well. So there's options that make me feel more confident in recommending someone like Neto.
What's the first choice? If it's a back four, what's the first choice in your opinion? If everyone's fit to you, what would you want it to be?
I think what it will be, and because I think we saw Lloyd Kelly at left back on the weekend. So I think Lloyd Kelly, he grew up as a fullback, so I'd put him there, and then you'd have Stevens and Senesi, and then Adam Smith would be a back four, and then Mepham will come in as a fifth if we want to play back five.
Where does Zabarnyi fit into this, if or when he gets fit?
I think he probably comes in for Jack Stevens.
Okay, do we know how far away he is?
They haven't given a specific timeline. I think we'll get an update over the sort of break, and then I think he'll be eased in. He's a very young man, so they're not just going to go 90 minutes against Chelsea or whoever it may be. They'll ease him in, so we'll get a little bit of advance notice that he's on there.
Yeah, I think if I was wildcarding for this, now, for example, if I was going to Bournemouth defensive, it would definitely be the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I quite agree with that, particularly if you're setting for a bench boost up. The only question is, there are other goalkeepers of similar value that would also be of interest. There's one that's a little bit more expensive, who, of course, Lee, you will know, is absolutely world class, in Emi Martinez. Would you pay the extra? I mean, considering what you're saying about the Villa defensive players, a lot of people going, bloody headache. I might take out, a blanker now and put Martinez in to get ready for a bench boost.
I think if I was free hitting this week, I could be quite tempted to go Martinez, because we know he's certainly capable of racking up those save points, racking up the bonus points. As a longer term option, how much is Martinez? I haven't got the numbers in front of me.
It's your team, Lee. It's 4.9, I believe.
Okay, that's not bad actually. I thought he might be 5 or 5.5.
4.9, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good price. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. We have looked a lot better defensively since Emery's come in. Able to deploy that back six on occasion when we're really sitting on a game. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think I do think it's worth the extra. Yeah.
You've had 4 clean sheets as far as I can see here. Actually, no, it's a lie. 5, but he didn't play at Tottenham. He's had 4 clean sheets since Emery took over, and the returns in those games for Martinez are 7, 10, 9, and 7. So there's always the possibility of a save point or even bonuses. You've got a couple of 10s and 9s in there. So what does that work out? 33 points over those 4 games. It's just over 8 per game, isn't it? So if a clean sheet comes, that's roughly what you're looking at for Martinez, is 8, which over a double probably wouldn't be first with the 2 away fixtures. You probably wouldn't be the first choice keeper in the double. You'd arguably be your substitute goalkeeper. The Hall is capable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Emi Martinez of old, of 2 seasons ago, when we all had him and he was 4.5, and he scored about, I think it was 180 odd points, didn't he, in that season? And yeah, I can't put anyone off him when he's pulling in those sort of numbers that we know he's capable of. And I suppose that season from 2 years ago gives us confidence that he is able to sustain that over a long period if he's in high in confidence and Villa are playing well.
I think the most off-putting thing with him, however, would be, unlike, say, with Mings, where I said, you can forget about it from 31 onwards, we might all be able to afford the value at the moment, but do you want a 4.9 million goalkeeper sitting there from game week 31 onwards? And no doubt there probably would be occasions you pick him, but the run is rough enough that that's probably not the goalkeeper you want for the run-in. That would be the most concerning thing.
I don't know how he rotates with like Raya, but
Brentford's fixtures are rough from a similar period.
Okay, yeah, so that doesn't quite work then, does it? You'd be looking at probably Kepa Martinez if you're bench boosting 29, and then, like you say, you're spending a bit more.
Exactly that. You're well, I mean, Raya's up to 4.8 now, in fairness, if you were buying new. If I was buying now, it'd be close between Raya and Martinez. Arguably maybe a preference for Martinez, but you also got like David De Gea, if you didn't need for this week, a similar value. And obviously Kepa is cheaper than both, and you can obviously save the money on Neto. Hope, if you want to pay extra, is going to have another double with Brighton further down the line as well, whereas you obviously haven't got that either. That's going to go for both of you, isn't it? There's no further doubles for either of you. It's just not one you're sitting and thinking, oh, I'm going to have that for a double later in the season. Do you want to elaborate on the world-class stuff, Lee, which has become a bit of a bird app thing, where every time he does something good, you tag me in?
Yeah, you've sort of been saying for a while since the World Cup how awful Martinez is in general.
No, that's not true, though, is it? You don't come on my show and lie, mate.
No, you've made it very clear that you think he's world class at penalty saves and
he's best goalkeeper at saving penalties in the world, mate. Yeah, I'll go with that.
But as a general goalkeeper, you don't believe he's world class. But I think you'd take him as the Lloris replacement right now if it was offered to you over Fraser Forster.
I'm going to take him over Fraser Forster, yeah. And I'd probably take him over Lloris going forward as well, to be honest. But he's been linked with moves, isn't he? That's not going away. And Tottenham is one of the clubs being mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, he's under contract till 2027. He only very recently signed a new deal with Villa. So I'm hoping he goes absolutely nowhere. I love him. It's funny, he kind of divides opinion, and even amongst our fans, where some of the fans are like, those antics at the World Cup, embarrassing. Don't want it to be associated with our club. What examples that set into kids on the playground about time wasting and shouting at penalty takers as they're about to take their kick and all that kind of stuff. But I love it. It's part of the game. If the refs don't enforce rules that will stop that stuff,
rusting golden gloves. Right. You want a referee to enforce that, do you?
Yeah, I love him. Absolutely love him to bits. But he does frustrate Villa fans, not only with the World Cup antics, but on a week-to-week basis, where what he'll do quite often now, and you'll have probably noticed this even more against West Ham because he hasn't got the Holt End and the Villa Park crowd getting on his back, is he will stand there with his foot on the ball and say, come on to me. And he'll wait until the forwards get really far forward and then try and play it around him. And that's the Emery ball side. I was going to say,
that's from the manager. That's not from the player.
100%. Yeah, definitely. But that really, and that's part of the reason why our away form is better than our home form since Emery's come in. Drawing 1-1 at home to Wolves, as well as the two that you stated, obviously, the 4-2s against Leicester and Arsenal. The Villa Park crowd don't like playing out from the back. They really don't like it. They get very frustrated. Get rid is always being shouted. And whereas away from home, as you'll have seen at the London Stadium, although we didn't get the win, we were very, very patient, especially in the first half. We controlled the play, back to the goalie if needs be. But it can be really dull to watch at times. I was at Villa Park for the Palace game when we won 1-0. And the second half of that was dross. It wasn't beautiful football. It was just slow.
Coming up my season ticket if you want, anytime you like.
But off the back of losing 2 home games 4-2, you'll take a 1-0 every day of the week, even if it is a little bit boring.
So what you're saying in essence is the style of play that's evolving under Emery is causing a bit of frustration with the home crowd. And I think this happens with a lot of teams, actually. Listen, I still hear it at Tottenham. Get rid. It's obvious you're trying to draw an opposition on, so they press and you play through the lines, and then you've got less men to beat and you're off. It probably comes from the nervousness as well, which I'd mentioned, was I can see a Villa goal being conceded at some point soon where they overdo it at the back. The goal against Leicester.
Well,
people have got a recent memory of where Kamara, who was obviously is injured at the moment, got caught on the ball, and it was an individual error, so you conceded a goal. So people have got it fresh in their minds. Hold on, we conceded a goal doing this very recently. And that becomes a problem from there.
People won't remember the chances we've created where we nearly scored, but we didn't quite score. And that was from playing it out from the back. They'll fixate on that one time where we see playing out from the back doesn't work. Because we conceded that one.
What's the situation with Kamara at the moment? It's obviously very important to you.
Yeah, massive. So hugely improves our ability to keep clean sheets and dominate possession of the football. I believe he's only a week or 2 away. It's not a major one, apparently. Originally, when he was injured, the prognosis was about 4 weeks, but we're now hopeful it might only be 3 in total, so a couple more, basically.
So he could make 29 by the sounds of it.
Yes, there's a chance.
Okay. If you had to buy a Villa player this week, Buendia, Ramsey, Bailey, McGinn. Where's your money going?
Head says Buendia, heart says Bailey, because I haven't shut up about Bailey all season on Twitter.
So basically not Bailey from what you're
So
saying.
basically Buendia, yeah.
you just want to be proven right. What should owners do with Bailey? There will obviously be a lot of people who own him and will want him to start twice in 29 if they're bench boosting. What's the go here? Have they got a chance of that?
Yeah, you got a chance, but I wouldn't put that chance at any more than sort of 50-60%. There's every chance that Buendia might start up top instead. At his price, I still think Bailey's good value for money. He'll feature most weeks. If he's not starting, you can almost guarantee he'll come off the bench. And he's more than capable of getting you returns. I do think Buendia is the better pick, but I think if you've got Bailey now, looking at a double in 29, if you're bench boosting, I think you're gonna potentially have other fires you need to put out, or other slots on that bench you need to upgrade. So if you've still got him, I think he's okay to hold at that value. Because also the problem that I think a lot of us fall into with 29 is we make our benches so strong that come 30, 31, we're going to be sat there going, oh shit, I've got all these expensive players on my bench. Whereas Bailey isn't expensive. You can bench him for the rest of the season if you wanted as your fifth mid.
Which is why people will obviously be hoping he gets the minutes over the near period because, yeah, for that running, forget about it, stay before in midfield. Although I'd suggest there might be a movement where people want 5. Is Watkins a penalty taker, Lee?
Yes, I was going to say this actually. I forgot to mention that earlier when we were talking about Watkins. So he took the penalty at Goodison. Obviously Danny Ings isn't around anymore, who was first choice. The only other person who is worth mentioning is Coutinho. He's taken penalties for us in the past, 1 or 2, I think. But the chances of Coutinho being on the pitch when we get a penalty is fairly slim. He's still coming back from injury. So I think the penalty side of things for now is Watkins, and that only increases his appeal.
Neil, who's yours? Is it Solanke?
What's a penalty? We haven't had one all year.
I knew I had to be careful bringing this up with you, mate. Is it Solanke, do we think?
Probably. I honestly, I don't know. We haven't had one for so long. I don't know. It would be Solanke, I would guess, but that was the last penalty we had was 2 managers ago. So
you don't get penalties when you're in a relegation battle, Neil. You only get them
team in the league.
Oh wow, they're getting one on Saturday now, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Martinez
only team
will save it though.
Yeah.
That would be our luck, to be honest. We'd finally get one and it'd be saved. But yeah, the only team now not to have one is a little bit silly.
Is that right? You're the only team?
Only team. Liverpool was the only other one, and then they got gifted one on Saturday. So.
Obviously, because they were playing you. Yeah, of course. What have we made on Semenyo, Neil? Because I get, is he a threat to Solanke? Played in a wide position at the Emirates, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he's not going to replace Solanke. He doesn't do what Solanke does in terms of that sort of hold up. What he is more of a pacey attacking option that perhaps we can either bring in as a wide player to go to play with Outtara, so on the left, so perhaps instead of Tavernier, who is on and off a lot, or if we're chasing the game perhaps, or we want to to go up the play a little bit more, then that's when Semenyo is used. He's really rapid again, which Solanke isn't. He's quick, but he's not the same level of rapid.
How big of a loss is Tavernier? Like, if you'd have been buying this week and Tavernier was fit, would you have gone him ahead of Billing?
I think so. Yeah, he's just different to what we've got elsewhere. So he's got that sort of counter-attacking, but he's a little bit more on the ball with it. Whereas Outtara does a lot more with his runs. Tavernier creates, I think, which Traore does as well. But we haven't got any of that at the moment, which is why you saw at Liverpool, we kind of went a bit route one and it worked because we haven't got we didn't have a natural playmaker, which Tavernier would be.
Okay, cool. I think that probably wraps it up. Unless have I missed anything, Lee?
No, I don't think so.
Neil?
No, the only other thing to say is that Brooks is on the radar again. I mean, we've got to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, that was really nice news to see him back on the bench at the weekend.
Yeah, really, really good. So he is now back in the match squad.
Do you think you stay up?
Yes.
Which three do you think will go down?
Saints, Leeds, West Ham.
West Ham?
Yep. And then I'm never coming back on the podcast.
You know who
again
pays the bills, don't you, Neil?
I know who pays the bill. But people keep saying they're too good to go down, but when are they going to show it?
Go on, Lee. You're free. Go on, as a neutral.
Oh, don't do that. That's not very nice.
Look me in the eyes as you say it, right?
Yeah, you know I'm going to say Bournemouth, I'm afraid. Bournemouth, Southampton, Everton for me.
Okay, you said Southampton as well, didn't you, Neil?
Yeah.
Everton's a funny one, though. It just depends on the manager and whether he can get a tune out of them or not. But the 2 games against Villa this season, they've been so bad. Like, they haven't scored a goal against us in either game, and I just don't see where the goals come from for Everton.
Tottenham at home game week 29, probably. Same for Southampton, Tottenham at home game week 28, right? Southampton 3 clean sheets in the last 4. It's interesting you mentioned, obviously, West Ham, Neil, that are too good to go down. No one's fucking talking about Leicester, are they?
And Palace as well. They haven't had a shot in 3 games.
Yeah.
It's anyone's.
The only thing for Palace is once they get past this Arsenal fixture, their running is good enough, you would expect enough points, considering they'll be above already. They're not going to go into the bottom 3 over the weekend. That's nearly impossible, I think. Then they've got a good run of fixtures. Their last home games are Leicester, Everton, West Ham, yourselves, and Forest. There's got to be points in there.
They've got to do it, though.
No, true. And Leicester also have still got yourselves at home to play near Wolves, Everton, West Ham. So they've got 4 from those near the bottom of the table as well. But yeah, listen, at the end of the day, basically coming into an 11 or 12 game season now, right? And it's whatever happens over. It's not about 38 games now because it's so congested. It's just the final third of the season, isn't it?
The bottom 3 will be decided on the last day, I reckon. And we've got Everton away.
Yes, I noticed. I might have had a conversation with Sean about that particular fixture after the clash of the correspondents on Tuesday. Let's do predictions for the weekend before we go. Lee?
I think it's going to be a really tight game. And I think the first goal is going to be so pivotal. I think if we score first, it could be really comfortable. I think if Bournemouth score first, it's going to be a horrible afternoon. I'm going to say we'll edge it 2-1.
Yep.
I think we'll score early and it'll be a 1-0 again.
To yourselves, obviously, to win. Nice. Good luck. Lee, just one final question. Would you consider captain Watkins at all this week?
Oh, God. What are the other fixtures? Who have Arsenal got?
Arsenal got Palace at home. Chelsea got Everton at home. It looks at the moment like Kane's probably going to be most popular, goes to Southampton.
Yeah, I'd go Kane. Kane for me, 100%.
I'd go Watkins.
I'll hold you to that. But I'll wait for the deadline stream.
I ain't got Harry Kane, so I've got to say.
Oh, yeah,
that.
you
No,
haven't, have you?
Watkins is not out running for me. It's quite open. I actually think Martinelli is a great shout this week, as I've mentioned a couple of times. But yeah, I'm probably going to be Saka over Chilwell over Watkins. I think probably that order for me, because I actually agree with you. Like, I don't think you're going to batter Neil's team at the weekend. Like, I think it probably will be tight. I can see it being 1-0, 2-1. The closer it gets, it's like, I don't know why, but the closer it gets, is like the less appealing Villa assets have become to me in a weird way. But both your teams cover off brilliant for these next couple of weeks. And for you yourselves, especially, Lee, it's 3 games. Why don't you them for yourselves as well, Neil? You got Leicester away in 30. It's not shit yourself either, is it, right?
No, as I said before, it was all about getting to this point in the season for us and being not adrift. And we've done that.
Yeah, you're in contention.
So happy with that.
Yeah, I'm buzzing after the weekend. Result aside as well, the fact where we are.
Yeah.
I've got you, Neil. I think on my FDR for all the fixtures left, I've got you about 4th or 5th.
That sounds about right.
So, you're well in with a chance. That fixture run you've got from now to the end of the season is much better than many of the other teams around you in that position. Follow it through and get the results, which you've done quite well in some of these more difficult games recently. Yeah. Thanks very much, gents. Lee, where can everyone follow you on the Bird app?
It's at Lee_Jackson_92.
Lovely stuff. And Neil?
At AFCB NG.
Super stuff, lads. Very best of luck for the weekend and the rest of the season. 2 more COTCs for you as we head towards double game week 29 of Newcastle and Manchester United with Simon Bibby and Gary Robinson for you in 2 weeks. But first, next week, Leeds versus Nottingham Forest with Andy Martin and Mark Southerns. I will be back at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning on the Planet FPL YouTube channel with my Ask James live stream. Just leaves me to say thanks again to Lee and to Neil. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please, man child.